Come on, come on, come on. Give me some energy. Give me some energy. How you guys doing? How are we doing? Great. Thank you. Whew. I thought I was underdressed or something. Cool. Welcome. It's an amazing day for small businesses. You are at the Yoko Exchange Small Business Summit. Really happy to be here, to be able to see all your amazing people. And for those of you who do not know me, my name is Joe Human. And so a lot of people always ask me, is Human your real surname? And I always have to tell this story, right? So I grew up in a very strong Christian background. My dad is a bishop. And growing up in the church, right, you're conditioned to think people that don't believe in the same faith as you as people that you should not sort of like mingle with, right? So here's a young Joe who gets into the creative industry and he meets different people from all walks of life. People that have a different race, a different culture, different sexual orientations or preferences, and he does not care about that. He cares about the connections that he makes with these people and the same mentality that they have in building all the cool shit that they are doing, right? So he takes that and he realizes that, look, before race, color, beliefs, we really all just human beings, right? We connect the same, we react to fear and love the same. And I took that as my brand. And I actually wanted to like embody that, right? So, yeah, actually, this is actually me. And before getting into sort of what I want to share with you guys today, I think you cannot be able to tell people about what you do without them actually knowing where you come from, right? So a little bit of insight about me. I'm Congolese born in Democratic Republic of Congo. Moved to South Africa in 2000. So before we moved, my father was the head pharmacist to the president at the time, which was Mobutu. And after Mobutu got assassinated, my own country was actually not safe for me to live in anymore because they were literally getting rid of everyone that was around the president. So my family moved from Kinshasa and we moved to Zambia. We lived in Zambia for about 2 years. Until then moving to Joburg, right? And we were homeless, we didn't have a place to stay, we were literally living in a shelter. And I remember my dad consistently, every single morning, leaving that shelter, going to downtown Joburg, and picking up anything that he could find that the street vendors might have dropped behind. And that's what we survived on as our groceries for more than 3 months, right? We then met a friend of his who took us into his ministry, and that's where sort of our lives just started getting a bit better. My dad then started his own ministry, and I got into school. Being this young, energetic, creative, curious person, I was really interested in creativity and art, right? But at the time, you know, black families, your dad is like, no, you need to be a doctor. You need to be an engineer, right? And creativity or the digital space was not conversation that was spoken about at the time, right? No one had insight and information around it. When I told my dad that I wanted to go into the design space, he thought I was going to be that artist who sits in the mall and draws people's pictures, right? That's what he envisioned as my life. And it took a lot of convincing for him to actually understand how broad this whole space was. And only recently, in 2018, because I've always been on Twitter, but I've actually never knew how to use the platform. And I used to tell myself, one day, I'm going to tweet something so smart that everyone is going to retweet it, right? And being in the brand space, building an agency, right, which is Creative Mind Space. The whole purpose of that was that, look, we are building amazing products and services, but we're not always communicating those products and services very well. right? We are filled with people, diversity, food, color, you name it, right? Our continent is rich, right? But we let brands like maybe Gucci or Versace come into the continent, take Ndebele print, create an outfit out of it, and we go crazy about that, while it's something that we experience on a day-to-day. And my agency was like, cool, let's build brands based on purpose, right? Based on our own narrative, because we experience these things on a day-to-day. And we and my business partner, Elliot Sitole, started creating Mindspace. On a personal level, I've worked with amazing brands, and this has really given me a lot of insight into what actually branding is, but more from a very human level, because we all speak about this buzzword called branding. What is a brand? Branding. A couple of weeks ago, brand alignment was trending on Twitter. Like every single quote tweet was about brand alignment, right? But what exactly is a brand? So your brand is not your logo. This is not a brand. You cannot tell me if you see a Starbucks logo, if you see a Mercedes logo, that you define that as a brand, right? Your brand is not your identity. It's not your business cards. It's not your poster. It's not how beautiful your collateral looks as a whole. That isn't your brand, right? Your brand is also not your product. iPhones, whatever you may call it, you can't tell me that your product, irrespective of how the quality is or what service you're offering, that isn't a brand. Cool. So then, what exactly is a brand, right? Number one, the brand or your brand is actually a gut feeling that someone gets about your service or your product, right? Ladies, that guy who gives you butterflies and he's medium ugly, but you still love him, that gut feeling, that's his brand, right? People are very intuitive and emotional creatures, right? You make decisions based on your emotions. So, because of this, a brand can only be defined by individuals and not a crowd, market, or companies. We might be using the same brand. Maybe you like a specific type of brand, specific type of car. Our reasons for that, being attached to that product or that service, will be very different, because I'm the one that defines what that brand is. So a brand cannot be defined by a crowd or a group of markets, right? People are looking for deeper, meaningful ways to actually being able to connect with your product or your service. And I think whilst building a brand, these are some of the things that you actually need to pay attention to, because we are not looking for value for money. Guys, our economy is tough. Cereal is not doing the things, right? So we have become so conscious about where we actually spend our money because we are looking for value. So a brand cannot be defined by a market or an industry, or it can only be defined by you. If a consumer believes that your offering is innovative and timeless, right, these elements register in their mind and forms part of your brand. If I see a Mercedes advert and I just see the car in probably a landscape, great, it looks beautiful, amazing, right? But if I see the same advert with people, maybe sitting, having a picnic, smiling, enjoying the moment, that gives me the impression that that brand can give me that feeling. That feeling connects to my emotions and how I want to feel, and that forms part of the brand, right? So, I got this, by the way. How many of us in the room would say that they love the brand Puma? Show of hands. Cool. How many of us are New Balance supporters? I see you. And Adidas? Cool. How many of us are Nike? Ha! Interesting. So, Nike has understood so many parts of activating that emotional aspect of their brand. That's why there's so many more hands, right, in the room. Can I please see the Nike supporters? Ma'am, why do you love Nike? They have a good quality brand. Another hand, why do you love Nike? Neat and simple, right? One more person. Storytelling. Ah, yes. You know what? If I had millions, I'd give it to you right now. Nike has understood storytelling. But beyond that, they've understood how to connect storytelling with a much bigger purpose. So I'm going to play this video for you guys, and I want us all to just watch it, and we'll continue our talk.
And here's Semenya. She's pushing on again, and she's breaking away. She's going for something special here.
Will it be easier for you if I wasn't so fast? Will it be simpler if I stopped winning? Would you be more comfortable if I was less proud? Will you prefer I hadn't worked so hard? Or just didn't run? Or chose a different sport? Or stopped at my first steps? That's too bad, because I was born to do this.
She does it again. Semenya takes the win and won it.
So, we all know that Caster Semenya was subjected to discrimination because of her testosterone levels, right? And it was something that we actually all as society, even the global society, was fighting against, right? We were very passionate about it. We were like, no, why can she not run? She's just as human as anyone else. And we connected to this issue, right? Nike saw that, and this is where the insight comes from, because I believe that brands of the future are not just brands that play a part in communicating their messaging, communicating their values, but they're also brands that actually partner up with bigger societal issues, right? And push their messaging and support people that are actually at the forefront of those issues, right? So this touched a lot of people globally, number one, and brands who have a narrative, unfortunately, will always keep winning, right? And we've seen this with quite a few of our local brands. Number one, Matkosa Baladuma. He created a whole brand, right? Just out of creating a knitwear that reflected his Xhosa heritage. And even though it's from the Xhosa tribe, even if you're Zulu, even if you're Pedi, you support that because it speaks about heritage, it speaks about growth, it speaks about being authentic, right? And we have brands like Nando's, which is literally one of my favorite brands digitally because they understand South African culture. They understand how we as people deal with things. I mean, we were making jokes about the corona. We named it so many different names. There was even a dance about it. You know, that's one aspect of how South Africans actually deal with some of the issues that happen in our country. And Nando's has been able for a lot of years to be able to take that, twist that, and add that narrative to it and remain relevant, right? So they use our own narrative and our own stories to actually stay relevant. Another one of my favorite brands is the Legends Barber. So Sheldon started cutting off people's hair with just a couple of clippers, right? And during like his spare time or over the weekends, he would then go to the old age home and start cutting old people's hair for free. And that's where the Legends name came from, cutting legends, right? And who knew that with just a pair of clippers, even though my job is to be your barber, he has built an amazing business, an amazing brand that speaks beyond what actually grooming is for the individual, right? So he took that narrative, which was his messaging, based on the community that he already built, and he ran with that. So let's have a quick recap on what a brand actually is. So your brand is not your logo, your offering, or your identity, right? Your brand is how an individual feels about what you're offering them or feels about your product. Your narrative and your story is actually the glue that forms a strong brand. A brand without purpose, without meaning, has no glue. It can't be kept together because there's so many things, there's so much noise in the digital space, right? And if you don't have a purpose, if you don't have a why, you'll literally be lost. You'll follow trends, you'll follow what's popping, and without a narrative, you can't keep a brand together. People are searching for more, deeper, meaningful ways to actually connect, and therefore, your brand and marketing efforts need to be emotive. You literally need to find, how do I make someone feel when I sell them this product or this service? And that is your brand. One of my favorite entrepreneurs of all time and my favorite brand in general, Steve Jobs, says, the chance to make a memory is the essence of branding, right? So branding, your marketing is really about making memories. Memories, again, are attached to emotions and how you feel about a specific product or a service. So, moving on to the next step, right? I'm going to share with you guys 3 things that I've learned in the last 7 years with all the brands I've worked with on a personal level, with all the brands I've worked with from an agency level. And I've implemented these 3 key things, and all these brands have been doing amazingly well. And these are the 3 keystones to branding, right? So, number 1, I'm very big on it, purpose. 2 is audience understanding. And 3 is your content. Purpose. The reason for which something is done or for which it exists, right? If you do not know who you are and what your values, or what values you live by, it's so ever easy for others to misunderstand what you're offering them. Purpose. Why? Why are you doing what you're doing? If you're starting something and you have no reason for it, you're in the wrong. Because people connect to that. Most of my customers come to me, and when I do like customer feedback and I ask them, why do you actually like about us? They all say the same thing. Because of why we do what we do. We are passionate about African brands. We are passionate about messaging. We are passionate about storytelling and our heritage and preserving that authenticity. We all don't document our processes and our stories. And I've built a business literally off that, right? If you don't know who you are, it's very easy for people to misunderstand what you're trying to sell them. The market, at the end of the day, decides if you're a great brand or you're a great product, right? They are the decision makers. I could build something so amazing and put it out, but if the market says it's shit because they are not going to buy into it, right? So you have to have a reason. Why am I doing this? What is the purpose? It could be anything. If you're doing it for money, great. If you're doing it to solve a problem, great. But there always has to be a why, because people connect to that. So just under purpose and how you sort of like build that, ask yourself these questions, right? What do you want to change? Look at the industry, look at the market. What are your competitors doing? How do you want to influence that? How do you want to change that? It could be a simple problem, like just offering people food, right? As long as you're solving a problem, you can be able to create value from that, right? Second question, how do you want to change it? Cool, I've identified that people are hungry in a specific space, right? How do I want them to create access? Uber has built that business model for 7 years before they launched it, right? Imagine working on an idea for 7 years and then finally launching it, right? All they did was they didn't change what we were already experienced to. They created access, right? They created usability. So how do you want to change the problem that you've identified as a brand, as a business, as an individual. What do others want to see? That should be your third question, right? Cool, you've identified this is what I need to do, this is how I need to do it, but also, what does the market want? So when building a brand, when understanding your purpose, always look into how do I connect with the people that are on the outside, and how do I get feedback from that, because that feedback actually adds into what you're building. And then how do you want to communicate this purpose? Do you want to use specific mediums? Are you going to go through traditional marketing? Are you going to do it through word of mouth? Are you going to set up experiential events? How do you want to communicate that this is what I do and this is why I do it? And lastly, how is this purpose? How will this purpose actually motivate or create ambassadors for your brand? I personally believe that when building a business, you are the first influencer of your business. Your team should be the first ambassadors of your business. And you can only achieve that through a strongly defined purpose, because they know exactly why I'm here, why I'm doing the job that I do, and what is the bigger vision of the space that I'm working in, right? The second keystone to building a brand is your audience understanding. Underneath that, there's demographics, there's platforms, and there's spending habits. You can get demographics from all the social media tools that are literally out there. Personally, I think Facebook has the strongest tools because it really goes down to things like your interests. What is this person liking? Where are they spending their time? What is their age gap? What is the age group, right? So audience understanding after you've defined your purpose helps you target the right type of people. Then there's platforms. From a user perspective, right? Cool, you are within the spaces that your competitors are actually also coexisting in, right? And then we've got spending habits. There is no way to better learn someone than where they spend their money on. Literally, right? So understanding where your clients spend their money gives you more insight on actually how do I market myself, how do I position my business, and who do I exactly sell to? Because then you've got insight. There's a market for this. The third keystone, which is one of my favorite, it's content, right? Under content, there's mediums, there's language, there's platforms. From a content perspective, there's time and relevance, there's real-time tactical movement. Guys, I literally came up with this. I'm going to sell you guys bullshit here, but I came up with this before. And then there's output. So, mediums. We've got platforms, we've got Twitter, we've got Instagram, we have got YouTube. I think TikTok is really popping now. And these are all the platforms that are currently out there with millions and millions of users, right? But then there's also mediums. And your mediums are video, copy, images, right? And depending on what social media platform you as a brand has positioned yourself, you need to be very mindful of the mediums that you actually use to actually connect to these people, right? I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, and I'm on Twitter. Facebook sometimes, right? When I post my content on Instagram and I'm in a lifestyle space and I look great or whatever the case might be, I cannot take that same content and put it up on LinkedIn because it's a whole different spectrum, right? Users use that platform for different reasons, even though they might follow me on all these different platforms, right? But the mediums that I use to either create content, to put out a message, I need to pay mindful sort of like angles to that. So when you're building your business and you've understood that, cool, this is the platforms that I want to use, also make time to understand how these people that you're targeting actually use these platforms. What mediums do they engage with very well? Is it images? Is it images and copy? Is it an image with a copy on top of it? Is it long write-ups? Is it short form video content? Pay attention to the mediums that you use, right? Then we've got language, and I don't mean language from a perspective of English, French, or Zulu. I mean language as in your tone. What is your brand messaging saying? Is it quirky? Is it fun? Is it corporate? Is it serious? What keywords are you using? There could be so many things that you use in your copy and your content that maybe a specific word might be derogatory to someone downtown Israel, right? So when building a brand, you need to understand that, look, as soon as you're on the digital platform, as soon as you're online, you are not limited to just your community, your society, and your country. Someone might retweet content that goes viral and touches people beyond the spectrum that you have built, right? So language within the content that you create is actually very key. Then we've got platforms from a content perspective. I think I touched a bit on this, but just understanding that people use different platforms for different reasons. We might all be on Instagram, but maybe I go there to look at other creatives. Someone in the crowd goes there because there's a beautiful woman. Someone might go there because there's actually someone that posts specific quotes that inspire them, right? Same platform, different users. Time and relevance. I think this is actually one thing that is so crucial within content, because every single day there's a new topic. Something else is trending. We are moving towards a different trend. And within your content, remaining relevant within the space that you're in is very key. Sorry guys, my screen went off. And real-time tactical movement. I think I've seen Nando's do this and quite a few brands now, especially on Twitter, where us as the users are now creating content for the brand without actually knowing it. So I remember the whole Nando's and the Bougie situation where Bougie was like, this is not how you spell my name. And Nando's was able to flip that and actually sell more Bougie rolls, right? So that was real-time tactical movement, understanding that, cool, this is user-generated content, but then how am I able to use this, flip it, align it with what my brand messaging is about, and still be able to remain relevant within the space that I am currently existing in. And then we've got output. For output, I really think it's about quality and not quantity. We live in a digital space where there is so much noise, right? We are all fighting for attention. We are all fighting to be seen. When you post that piece of content, you want people to engage it, you want people to reach it, you want people to comment on it, right? And within that, there's still so much noise. How do you differentiate yourself and stick out from that noise? It has to be from your output. What content are you releasing into the digital space? How is it packaged? What's the quality, right? For me, it's honestly quality and not quantity. I post once in 3 days on Instagram because I really care about the quality of content that I'm putting out. If I don't have anything to say, if I don't have thoughts, I don't tweet, right? Because it's really about remaining consistent and always consistently putting out great content, right? So content that amplifies the brand message based on the audience that you are speaking to. And understanding that user-generated content is actually your door to actually grow your brand reach and your marketing efforts, right? And within all of this, as a business, especially in the digital space right now, we need to be conscious of all these three elements. Because without these, right, you as a business will fall short. No one's going to notice you. You're going to be part of the noise, right? And these are the three keystones to brand building. Thank you.